right, how we doing today, guys? Here we are, December 2nd. I guess getting back into the swing. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Great participation today, guys. Glad to see that. I know we have a lot of new members today. It looks like it's a tie here, but first up, we're going to start on Monero here. So I've got XMR to the dollar here. Now I'm on Bitfinex, although we're going to do our current analysis over on Binance because the volume's higher. But here, so let me show you what we're dealing with here. You guys probably recognize this as well. If I look here for where the volume is, right? So you guys know I like this coin checkup site. So I can just come over here and come to the exchanges and just sort it on 24-hour volume. So just coming down the list, we can't look at CoinEx here, but the highest volume count relative to the dollar is to the dollar tether here on Binance here. So, of course, that's what we want to look at. The current trading here is on Binance, but to get some historical context, we're only going back to March of this year. So we got to get the Elliott count off of Finex here so we can get the complete history of it. So if I pull back out here, let me get that off. All right, so we can get the full up and down. Now, we're going mighty deep here for the idea that we have a 2. So let me pop this up here. Just reset. Bear with me a sec. All right, so we're about as deep as that can go for us to hold on to the possibility that we've got a 1-2 here. So if I get that dialed in here, so we've just tagged the 887. Now, of course, internal is internal, right? So we're still above the pivot here. 887, kind of a last stand to hang on to the idea that we've got a 2. But if you really look through the count, it does. All right, there's a count that can support this. So the ABC here is. I mean, there's a lot of meat in here. We'll get there in a sec. But this ABC into the X here, that's deep enough. This is a bit more shallow. But then the ABC here that follows into the Y, another ABC into the X. And it looks like we might be able to finish here with this final ABC, taking us very deep. But the count, I mean, it's unusual, right? But it's not the craziest thing I've ever seen. Now, what's interesting about this count is how unbelievably technical this has been on the way down. So for short sellers, this has been very, very, very profitable, right, for people that know how to do this. So let's come back over here and look at this on Binance. So granted, right, we're just making do as we go through the retracement here. Now we're already through this low, but we know that this is just a fraction of the price history here. But we do get the same pivot, and then working through the move down here. Well, one, you'll note rather than a channel here, the shift pitchfork here I think is a better fit, and look how nicely we just contain the entire move. So any sort of, I mean, the very first corner pocket was hit right here. All right, so you can if I get that. So that's our first one. Get this back on here. I mean, just beautiful, right? So that's what's so powerful about these, right? The market defines it, right? It truly is the market's geometry. So now we're coming up here a little short. Doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's the series of pivots coming down are just insane, right? So this would be a good chart or a good video to someone who tells you that well, you can't use technical analysis in crypto, right? I mean, you can't do that. Let's just take a look at that. So there's two things here that are important. These are very, relatively simple concepts, but they're very important in terms of applying our methodology. And there's two of these here. So let's just break them down. So the first is the alternate price projection. So when we're looking at an alternate price projection, i.e. the length one swing related to the next from a pivot like this. So we look at this swing projected from this swing. The 100 is actually really quite critical and fairly high degree of confidence that there are algos keying off of this. So if you see this kind of list, for lack of a better description here, let's just call it an ABC. It's an internal followed by an external, but we'll just call it an ABC. If we have an ABC type of swing, like we're full of them here, right? So we look at one like this, right? This is just a perfect example. If we don't make the 100, right? This is a sign of weakness. So if you were purely applying our methodology here, if you don't make the 100 on this swing, it's the next retrace. You absolutely want to take that. And I'll show you some examples here. And the other is just the straight, right? Things I've been teaching for 2 years here. Just this. Well, damn, I got it to the tick here. Just the straight algo play. Ooh, that's pretty good for a free draw. So from our golden zone to our first target. Now again, right? Is it an ABC going here? Now note here, just as I've drawn this, because this you'll see this. If we make the algo target here, but we don't make the 100, same thing. You'd still be watching for, because we failed to get the 100. You'd still be watching for that next little retrace. If it comes down here and then you get a little retrace, you get into that golden zone, you want to pay attention there. So that's one to watch for. Now you will see times where the algo target will be at or even above the 100 based on how long this swing is, how long this swing is. So, just be mindful of that. But this is an important tell. In fact, we use this in day trading. Virtually every 3 pivot swing. This is an important part of our methodology in there, which is less Elliott focused, and it's all just geometry and swing relationships. So let's pull that off, and having kind of did a primer on that, let's take a look at some of these swings coming down here. So the very first one, right? So we get a pivot, right? Again, this is the same. It's the same pivot here over on FinX here, but because the volume is higher, I wanted to use this as we come down. So again, we just as basic and as rudimentary as we get here, right? So here's the first thing. Okay, sorry. So let's remember, we can't use technical analysis in crypto, right? We just can't do that, right? It's just too erratic, doesn't work, right? So that's. Do we have any question about whether or not the algo's in here? Now let me hide this because it's just going to get crowded in here. So let me hide that pitchfork. Okay, we'll get you off. All right. So right off the bat, we go. Now note, right? I like to emphasize this. It's not the 618. It's into the golden zone, right? And do you see what's happening there? The people that don't know this are putting their stops just on the other side of the 618. Now, can you imagine how they feel when they see that, right? If they're not right there watching themselves get ticked out, when they see what happens, because, I read in a book somewhere that I should put my stop just on the other side of the 618. And then they come in and look what happens to them, right? They just get bent over. Hey, well, shit, there's actually another one in there. Right, do you see it? Right. So from here, we've got a secondary. Right, here's the 50. Like gets that one. So they're always just. I mean, so I'm on an 8-hour here. If I went down to a 30-minute, I'll bet I could find 20 on just on this swing here. But let's stay out here at the higher time frame here. So ABC, and then I get an ABC. Well, right, I mean, process of elimination. Right, it's pretty easy to go ahead and put the W here and go. All right. So I got a 3 pivot swing. I'm correcting something. Now, you wouldn't have known right, at this time if we go back. Oh, shit. Let me go over here. Right, you wouldn't have known that this wasn't just a straight ABC, right? Because you'd have been thinking, oh, hey, look at that. I got an ABC into a golden zone. I got a 1, 2. I'm off for the 3, 4, 5. Off we go into the third. You don't know. Of course, obviously, we don't know that. And then as this falls down here, then the complexity. So we're working backwards with hindsight, right? Of course, I recognize that. Well, let's come back here and see if we could have traded this and if it was technical. So here's all right, that's about as technical as they get, literally just going through a couple of ticks just to be sure everybody got their fill, right? So golden zone, target, look at the retrace. Okay, so what happens on the retrace? Right to the 50. Now, this is actually, here, let me show you this because I want you to think that this is easier. So because we just have to track it. So look what happens here. So on this one, from swing to swing, we break. We break, right? So we've got this one happening internally here. This gets to and through. It get this one here. Oh, interesting, right? So this one gets a slight break here. We get that's oh my God, that is really tight. So we get a very, very slight break here, but we're going all the way to second target here. But it's the downside that I really want you to emphasize, want you to focus on here. So you look here and you go, oh, I break, right? So. Right, does that mean we're off to the races? It's bullish? Well, you guys hear me say this all the time, right? We know that they're responsive here. We have to go back a pivot and just check and see if there's something here that we got to be, you got to pay attention to. So we get the ABC into the B here. And you can get a 5 out of that. So you'd have to go 1, 2, 3. So you end with a diagonal to get into our C down here for the W. ABC into the X. Now, ideally, you'd see that go to the golden zone, but it doesn't have the legs to get there. This is not a disqualifier, but in a perfect WXY, you want to see that go to the 618, but we don't, right? We don't need perfection. So we don't disqualify here. With the ABC into the 3 legs here, I'm comfortable giving that the X, and then yet again, A, B, C. Now, do I even need to draw it? Do you think that might be technical? Right, we just saw that, so we have 2 technical pivots here, so let's just draw it up. What do we get here? Oh, if I'm right on it. It literally, it's the 65 to the tick, right? So from swing high, swing low, we go into the 65, we go into the golden zone, tag the 65, and look what we get here. Right, so it's straight to second target. It doesn't even pause at first target. It's straight to second target. Then we get the reaction, right? And then it looks like, so every single swing here, very technical. You're getting little breaks. Interesting. We're getting slight breaks on the buy side, on the sell side. And so note here, we get the break of the 65 and we don't quite make the target. Interesting. Sign of weakness that they're getting that break and then not getting the target. So what do you think we have here? Right? Who's in control on this move? So we just keep it going, right? You just trade them until they fail. Right? So this is golden zone, 50. Golden zone, golden zone. Again, look what they're hitting here. They're hitting second targets here. Almost every one of these has been a second target, right? Getting the negative 618. So it's golden zone. Barely pauses here. Now we do get this crazy wick here, right? We got this crazy wick. So very possible here you had some profit taking, then this is just like, just random, who knows what's happening there, but then it ends up getting realized down here at second target. So we're not even to the Elliott count here. I'm just working off of swings. So then we just keep the thing going. All right, here's the last pivot. All right, here, if I get right on that. On it. Yeah, there we go. All right. So this time we're not making the 618. We're just getting to the 50 here. Now look, likely you're just running into some structure here. All right. Prior support. They're wicking through, trying to get. It's likely that's just stop running. Those kind of wicks like that. That's likely. So the stop gets hit, down it goes. So here we are at the 50. Now we're not quite to this yet. But you look here and you go, oh, look, we're just running into the Vegas wave. What do we think is likely there? All right, so grabbing this to this, another golden zone. It's almost going golden zone 50, golden zone 50, golden zone 50. Right? It's unbelievable, right? So we're here, we're tagging. So we go right to the Vegas wave, tag the 618. Now, how do we? Right, that's pretty. So we've got a kind of a hot box down here as a target zone for this to realize. But if this isn't the Z and we're going to go down here a little bit lower, well, we got to think about what that's going to do to our account, because from here we need an ABC. So if this is going to play, see that wick, I would ignore it because it's just an anomaly here. So do we have potentially now this final Z going? Pardon me, the C going here, and that this would have to trade as a 5 leg. It's possible. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's deep, but note it stays as an impulse, right? We don't overlap the 1 here since we hold at the golden zone. So getting that now down here, we've got a contender here. Now this looks like you could finish this. You'd have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not as clean. The symmetries, excuse me, symmetry is not as good to finish on this as it is down here, but now we're getting mighty deep here. Now we're talking 40. We'd have to go back here and check, see if that's going to take over that low here. So what's our absolute low here is 38. It's going to be mighty close here. So if we look at this one, if this is going to have another leg, so now let's look at it over here. All right, so here we're at the 50. If we're going down here, here's the 887. Getting kind of skinny, right? You're really, between $2 roughly, $2 and change before you're putting in a new low. So it's hard to be terribly bullish here. Even though we're still internal and maybe you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, just looking at it, right? So you can just, granted, we're on a larger time frame, but we'd be trying to finish it with something like this. So again, wouldn't be the craziest thing I'd ever seen here. And again, oh shit, here I'm on a daily. Let's go to the 8 hour, take a look at it. Meant to be on the 8 there. Do we really have 5 there? I mean, it's see, it looks more like it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the third. So it does appear like this is the 1, 2, and this would be the completed impulse of the 3, 4, and they're, you know, very, very reasonable to anticipate that there's another leg down here. Now, to get there, of course, it's going to have to break the algo, the buy side algo that'll be here. We know it'll be there. So from this pivot, because we've had a far enough move, so we've yet to come back down and challenge this. So this is going to get, likely will get challenged. So if we can come down here, it remains to be seen. Nothing says we have to come down here. But if we do that and we get a reaction there, for this to do anything, I mean, so even if we hit here, you still contender for... it would start to look a little bit better. I'll have to check that length, but that looks like that's going to be close here, that maybe we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe you could get a motive wave started here. Oh, shit, let's check it. Let's go to the 3 hour. I'm not sure that's going to be long enough. Maybe. Let's just take a look. Okay, so if this is our 1 and this is our 2, yeah, looks like it will be. So it looks like 1, 2. I don't see much of an impulse there. I'd be cautious about being overly aggressive here, given that sequence that we've had coming down. You know, so already this has to be a diagonal, because if this is our 1, we've overlapped here. So you're right off the bat, you know, you're trying to squeeze a diagonal in here. I wouldn't be, you know, sure, if you're a bull here, I'd take a piece here, but I don't know that I would give it a whole lot of room here. Maybe the 707 might be a reasonable spot for a stop here. I wouldn't give that a lot of room. So you'd be, you know, maybe you come to, well, you're going to have, right, so we've got some, we look here, some of this prior support here. So anything coming down in this range here, I mean... I don't know that I'd be overly aggressive there. See, for me, I'd rather get this thing to complete and break the other side, the algo from the other side. So if we pull from here to this low, right, we got to get through this golden zone here. And so note here, here's the oh, you can barely see it, but it's right on top of it. The 2360 algo target here, well, you can see it here, is right on top of the 65. So I'd rather wait and get this to complete. If this is me, all right. So if I just use that. Let's go back to original. You know, again, I don't have this pivot here. I'm just guesstimating. I mean, shit, could be here. If I got something down here, you know, something like that would look kind of interesting. But I want to see a solid motive. But because, you know, I'm not worried about getting the absolute pivot low. If this is going to go and we're going to get an alt season, or, you know, a crypto alt winter is ever going to end, there will be, oh shit, right, we got a long way to go back to challenge the highs. Lots of resistance to get through. So I'm not worried about, oh man, I better hurry up. I'm not going to FOMO into this because the technical pattern is not good enough. So why FOMO into this? Give me a nice clear motive coming out of this, and then I'm right with you. Give me a nice 5. Give me the 3. Then all day long I'm a buyer there. Until then, I don't know that I'd fuck around down here. I know it's tempting, right? We're dying for it to go, but you know, the count doesn't really, not that good. I mean, is it good enough to put money at risk? I don't know. Be careful about trading just because you can. You know, be selective, particularly in the alts. No reason to trade just because you're bored, right? Be careful of that. Right? And you start watching, like, well, it could be, maybe. Let's take a flyer, right? Most of the time, that's kind of a reckless way to trade. You'll get lucky every now and then, but that's not a consistent way to build a trading business. You know, that's how you have to think of it. So if we come back to this and thinking, oh, if that's the A and this is the B, one more push down, still, you know, why try and pick the turn, right? I mean, at the very least, let's see if we get a pivot down here. I mean, remember, we'd be putting in a pivot here. This target box down here is at 38. Our low, our pivot low is, pardon me, our box down here is 40. Our pivot low is at 38. So I would want to see strong signs of a motive coming off of that. And I would not buy into that. I'd wait for this. This is me personally. All right, I'd wait for the 3, 4. Give me some signs of strength coming out of there. Especially considering how consistent the algo plays have been in here, just one right after the next. So why would you assume? I mean, again, it's not that it couldn't turn. Eventually, it's going to turn, or it's going to zero. Yeah, eventually, it'll turn. But considering every single one of these has been a technical pivot and an opportunity to sell, why would you assume that wouldn't complete? Seems a bit overly optimistic. Now, if you come down here, we get to the golden zone, you get a reaction, we take out that pivot, well, now you got something to build from. But until then, the path of least resistance is down. Even just look at the Vegas wave, right? We're below it, right? We've just tagged a golden zone. Well, I'd be chasing the longs there just yet. Right? Unbelievably technical coming down. I show anyone who tells you can't apply technical analysis to crypto. Just bring up that chart. I think you might have a different response from them. All right, guys, there you go. We're going to get a couple more here. So there's a good example of our methodology. All right, guys, talk to you later.